A while back on this channel we did a video about famous last words. Everyone seems to have a sort of morbid fascination with the last thing that people chose to say on earth. Well, there are plenty of examples out there. Some of them were clear, some of them are mysterious, and some of them were even a little bit funny. I went through literally hundreds of them and found the most interesting ones for you guys today. My name is Danny Burke and these are the strangest last words ever spoken. Starting off at number 10 now, we have James D. French. He was an American criminal, actually the last person to be executed under Oklahoma's death penalty. He was serving life in prison but allegedly was too afraid to commit suicide, and so he murdered his own cellmate hoping to get the death penalty, which he did. When James French was strapped into the electric chair and asked for his last words, he supposedly asked those around him, "How's this for a headline? French fries." So yeah, his name once again was James French. Electric chair, French fries. Some people find that funny, some find it shocking, some people just don't know what to make of it. What do you guys think? Next up at number 9 now, we have Oscar Wilde. This Irish poet and playwright was known for his biting wit and conversational skill. He seemed to have a quote for every occasion and remains one of the most quoted famous people in history. It seems only fitting then that his last words were some of his most famous. While lying in bed and dying of cerebral meningitis, Oscar said, "My wallpaper and I are fighting a duel to the death. One or the other of us has to go." Coming in at number 8 now, we have time. I found this one on Reddit. It came from a Reddit user called Guy with Crazy Ideas who said, "Grandma's last words to the nurse on duty was, 'Time is not what you think it is.' She kept repeating it over and over and then died. They pulled me aside when I arrived and told me how strange and alert her eyes were as she kept repeating the statement about time. I still wonder about this to this day." That's pretty heavy. What do you guys think she meant? Some people feel that when people are close to death, they begin to see around the veil of reality, of the universe as we know it, that they feel more connected to what is beyond or the lack thereof.
All of a sudden, Grandma looked so terrified. She grabbed my hand and told me she didn't want to go. So I said, "Well, can you see God or heaven or a light or anything?"
What did she say?
"No, there's nothing."
Maybe the grandma felt something deep about time. Time is a very strange concept and something that science still doesn't fully understand. Moving on to number 7 now, we have horses. This one comes from Pat Laney on Reddit who said, "ER physician here, had heard many last words from patients, but the creepy one has to be of a man who was on his last breath as he succumbed to renal failure. He said, 'I see a bright light, horses, no eyes, no, no, no,' as he yelled loudly. At this point he was crashing when he suddenly woke up, looked up, and with his last breath he said, 'I understand,' and he died." We know in the medical field that these situations are provoked by a cascade of neurotransmitters in disarray due to tissue and organ failure, but I sometimes have my doubts and perhaps we are seeing more than we are led to believe. That is just one of the strangest things that I've ever heard. Hands down. What were the horses? What did he now understand? Why don't we understand that? I think I got a lot more questions than answers from this story. Coming in at number 6 now guys, we have Joseph Wright. You may not know his name, but you'll know his creation. Joseph Wright is credited with the editing of the English Dialect Dictionary. It's often regarded as his life work. There are 28 parts made up of 70,000 entries published over the course of 7 years. Another notable thing to mention about Joseph Wright is his famous last words, or should I say word, which was simply dictionary. That was it. According to reports, the man who contributed to one of the most famous dictionaries of all time died after just saying its name one last time. Sort of strange, but also kind of fitting in a way. Moving on now to number 5, we have the Tophat. This one comes from a Reddit user who is a nurse. They said, "A nice old lady told my nursing assistant she wanted to wear all white. When asked why, she said, 'The man in black is here.' She looked in the corner of the room. The nursing assistant looked, but there was no one there. That's when I came into the room. We asked her to describe what she was seeing and she said, 'He's all in black and he's got a top hat on.' Then she whispered, 'And his eyes are red,' while her eyes moved across the room directly behind the nursing assistant like she was watching him move closer to us. She died later that night, but it was unexpected. That room creeped me out for a long time after that." Now, some people find it easy to dismiss that as just an old or sick person hallucinating, but others who hear the story are shocked by just how alert the woman seems in the story. She describes his clothes accurately, she watched his movements, and she knew that he had deep red eyes. Who was he? Well, I'm sure we all have a few guesses. Next up at number 4 now, we have Karl Marx. He was a famous German philosopher and political theorist that was the founder of Marxism as we know it. He had been suffering with bronchitis for the last year of his life. When things got really bad, his housekeeper asked him if he had any last words. Marx shouted at her, saying, "Go on, get out. Last words are for fools who haven't said enough." He died shortly after, making his angry quip about last words his own last words. Somewhat fitting. Next up at number 3 now, we have Spaghettios. Thomas J. Grasso was executed in 1995 for using Christmas tree lights to strangle an 85-year-old woman. His last meal request was for 24 steamed mussels, 24 steamed clams, a Burger King double cheeseburger, 6 barbecue ribs, 2 strawberry milkshakes, 1/2 of a pumpkin pie with whipped cream, diced strawberries, and a 16-ounce can of Spaghettios with meatballs served at room temperature. Well, it seems that he got everything, but his Spaghettios weren't right. Just before his execution, he was asked for any last words, to which he replied, "I did not get my Spaghettios. I got spaghetti. I want the press to know this." Well, they did, and eventually the whole world did too. Moving on to number 2 now guys, we have eyes. This one comes from a deleted Reddit account who simply said, "My grandfather on his deathbed said, 'They have no eyes.' It still gives me chills." That was posted in a thread asking doctors and nurses what the creepiest last words that they ever heard from patients was. That response had a lot of people saying it was the creepiest thing in the whole thread. Who are they? Is he seeing something or someone? What did he mean by "they have no eyes"? It could be something fairly normal and explainable, or it could be something more terrifying than we can even comprehend. Perhaps the scariest part is that we may never know. And finally, number 1 now, we have Richard B. Mellon. He was an American multimillionaire and president of the Aluminium Company of America. As a kid, he and his brother Andrew had always played tag. Now as they grew up and lived in different places, they continued the game into adulthood and wanted to see how long they could make the other person remain it for. This would involve tagging the other brother before jumping on the train or driving off in a car. Things went on like this for 7 decades. When Richard was on his deathbed, he called over his brother and whispered his final words in his ear, simply saying "last tag" as he touched him. His brother Andrew then remained it until his own death 4 years later. Well, I'm kind of glad we ended on that one. It's difficult to end a video talking about last words on something that takes death seriously but isn't too morbid, and I think an eternal game of tag sort of strikes a balance there quite well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We covered a range of emotions there with happiness, sadness, and sort of just plain old creepiness, which is what this channel is very good at. I'd love to know which one of those had the biggest impact on you. Thanks very much for watching as always guys. My name is Danny Burke and I will see you all in the next one.